Let's talk about the latest condo market stats that were released for the third quarter of 2020, right? And we're just going to go through some of the major figures and numbers. So let's start with average selling price. Now, this is for all condo types. The average selling price for the third quarter of 2020 saw an 8.3% increase. Before we go further into the stats, we're going to first present the facts and then break it down and analyze it in our own opinions. So let's just go through the numbers first, right? So 8.3% increase from the third quarter of 2019, wherein the average price was $584,000. Now the average price stands at $633,000. Once again, an 8.3% increase, right?
Right.
Going to the next number, which is the total sales, we saw about a 10.5% increase, wherein it went from 6,000 to 7,000, right? So about 700 to 1,000. If you look at this specific numbers, it went from 6,398 to 7,072, 10.5% increase.
Yeah.
And then this is, in my opinion. Now, once again, we're just presenting the facts. We'll get to my opinion later, but this is something you should take note of. 84% increase, 84.6% increase in the total number of listings.
New listings,
not active. Meaning there was, in the third quarter of 2019, there was 9,542 total new listings in the third quarter. Whereas now in 2020, in the same period, 17,000. That is large. That's
an 84%
84% increase. And the sales to listing ratio. Now, how would you describe the sales to listing? Because I don't want to do all the talking. How would you tell that to like a person who has not ever been involved in the market? How would you explain that?
Sales to listing ratio? You mean the selling price?
No, sales to new listings ratio.
My mistake. Yeah, I had that. Well, essentially, let's put it this way, very simple. I think the number is for about every 5 new listings that come on the market, 1 property sells. I think that's the ratio.
That's the problem. What is it? It's just basically sales to new listing. How many? It is what it sounds like. It's for every new listing. How many of those every new listings actually sell, right?
Which is what I said.
Yeah, but you gave you gave it like a rule of thumb about how often.
No, that's based on the numbers right now.
No, but right now it's 27%, minus 27%, meaning 67% in 2019 of new listings for condos actually moved, like new product that people were trying to sell. 67% of those new products actually got sold. Now it's down to 40%.
67% sold?
So in 2019.
In 2019, sorry.
Yeah.
Okay.
So it's dipped by 27%.
Gotcha. Okay.
Yeah. So meaning now, and obviously less than ever, it's the case that less than last year, at least, not ever, that was too strong of a word, but condos for sale are not selling. Only 40% of them are selling. We've discussed this in previous podcasts with leases and condo sales, right? So these are just the numbers. Surprisingly, I'm actually kind of surprised by this. The days on market is down. The days on market the third quarter of 2019 was 22 average days. Now it's 20, which that's actually surprised me. I assumed days on market would be up.
Keep in mind, this is not just Toronto. This includes Halton, Peel, York, Durham. This includes all of the areas.
But I'm sure you would agree that the bulk of condos, even though there are plenty of condos in Mississauga,
right?
Yeah. But the bulk of the transactions and where the stats derive from
are in Toronto, in the 416.
Yes.
Yeah. C1, C8, C14, C7. I agree with you. Yes. However, once again, it's an average. So, the 2 days can be considered as a lot. A lot of things do happen in 2 days, but when you take the average, might not represent a whole big significance in change. my opinion. But go back to the negative 27. You're telling me that the number of properties that are selling has dropped by 27% compared to last year.
So the number of listings that are actually selling,
right?
Exactly,
has dropped
relative to the number of listings that exists, has decreased by 27% in terms
year over year.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
So no, yeah, exactly. But the third quarter to third quarter,
right?
So these are the basic numbers, and then we can go through more numbers, by community. I don't know if you have anything.
That's pretty much that's what I focus more on.
Yeah.
You're looking at
the general.
Yeah, the general. I decided to look at the numbers a little bit more based on region. So the major regions that we have are Halton, Peel, Toronto, York, and Durham. Now, Halton is kind of like Oakville, Burlington, Milton area. Peel includes Mississauga, Brampton, and I think Caledon, if I'm not mistaken. And then City of Toronto is Toronto. York Region is Vaughan, Richmond Hill, Markham, Stouffville, Newmarket, that whole 905 area. Durham is Pickering, Ajax, Whitby, and I think Oshawa, and maybe something further north. And then there's other areas, which is like everywhere else where people live but are not significant enough to be considered as one area. Like Simcoe, for example, would be other areas. So the bulk of it, as you said, you're right, is out of the city of Toronto. So out of Q3, the 7,072 units that sold, 4,770 are in the city of Toronto.
That's upwards of 60%, I would say.
Yeah. And then the second highest is York Region, if I'm not mistaken. Oh no, Peel at 895, and then York Region at 723. So those are not even a quarter of what Toronto is selling.
No.
Those are, that's obviously huge for Toronto, but it's not like it's unusual, because even quarter 3 of last year, the bulk of the sales were once again in the city of Toronto, roughly 4,467 Q3 of last year. So the numbers went up by about 9% in the city of Toronto. But then likewise in all the other regions, we had double-digit increases. So it seems like people are leaving Toronto to move to condos in the 905s. Or perhaps for some home buyers, instead of moving downtown, have decided to buy in the 905s.
So those are the numbers.
Yeah.
Let's break them down a bit, right?
Sure.
Let's now give our personal opinions and analysis on them. And we've been on the same page regarding these numbers, I think, the entire way through.
Yeah.
Let's address one thing, though, because I personally have been, it's a strong way to say pushing the narrative, because it sounds like I have like propaganda agenda, but just hypothesizing and saying, in my professional opinion, that a certain thing will happen, which you've been on the same boat with me, which is the decline in condos, right? And we're seeing the first inclinations of it, even more than the first inclinations of it, because you might say, well, the average price is up by about, as I said, 10% or 8%, 8.3%, right? So how can it be that it's declining? The condos are declining.
That's year over year.
That's year over year, right? You have to compare the third quarter to the first quarter of 2020. And then I'm even going to venture to say, you might even not go this far, but I think fourth quarter of 2020 will definitely, I'm not going to necessarily say it's going to be lower than the fourth quarter of 2019, but it's going to be much, the gap between the increase, the percentage increase is going to be much lower. I'm only suspecting about 6% increase at most, personally. That's my
year over year.
Because things are going to get much worse in 2021, don't you think?
Well, yeah. I think come 2021, when you compare year over year, you're going to see the numbers lower than Q1 of 2019. 2020.
Exactly.
Because earlier this year, it was a hot condo market.
Very hot.
It was very hot.
Condos were moving within 4 days, 3 days. Yeah.
So I think, Q1 of 2021, you're going to see the average prices and probably the number of transactions being less than Q1 of 2020. And that will be the real indicator of how the Toronto or the 416, Toronto real estate market, condo market, I should say, is doing. There will be probably more listings sitting on the market. But that's then. I think you're right. Q4 2020 compared to 2019, the average prices will still likely be a little bit higher,
but only by a factor of 6% or something like that. In my opinion, like it's just the percentage increase is gonna get lower and lower, and that's what we're seeing, right? I don't quite recall the Q2 comparison.
I have those here.
Q2, how much was Q2 up from Q2 of 2019?
On average, the number of listings, the number of sales actually were down by about 50%, but the average price was up by about 5%.
Okay.
And in 416, the average price was up about 3.5%. Sales were down 48%. York region, sales were down almost 60%, but the average price was up about 6%. So all in all, the number of sales.
That is a special case,
Q2.
though.
Yeah, that was in the midst of the pandemic.
That was before even we knew how we control properties. Really,
right? Yeah.
Like, what is the protocol? I'm gonna have some security guard stick a gun to my forehead when I try to show a unit, which is not an actual gun, but it's one of those temperature reading devices. Yeah. But so we told that story a while back.
This was in the midst of it, April, May, June, where the listings were down. We didn't really know how to navigate through this, and
that is an anomaly. I'm projecting that probably if okay, go ahead.
Sorry, despite that, the average prices were still higher. Q2 2020 over Q2 2019.
So imagine how much they would have otherwise been higher if we're not dealing with a pandemic, right?
Yes.
So that's just to say that it is up 8.3%, but we still haven't seen the full brunt and full force of all the market forces at play causing this decline. We haven't seen the full force. I suspect, as you suspect, you will see it more so in December and early months of 2021. Mm-hmm. But one thing we are seeing is this figure that we should talk about is 84% increase in the number of listings.
Yes.
Q3 to Q3. That is crazy.
How many are active? I think there was 120.
I don't have that figure here, but it's I can pull it up. In terms of active listings, average. Once again, active listings was.
It's in
7,000, 250, 318%.
318%.
No, 118%.
118. That's
yes. So, 118% increase in active listings, 84% increase in total listings, and once again, new listings rather. Yeah. My apologies. And only 9,000 of compared to 9,000 of Q3 of last year. So you have an 84% discrepancy, or rather increase in listings, but you only have a 10% increase in the number of transactions. Right? Take that into account. Right? So that says everything you need to know about where the condo market, in my opinion, is headed.